Hi, I'm Andrea Klim, and you are watching Turn to the Stars. And today is Tuesday, December 16th, 2014, as I record today's show. And I'm going to be focusing on these topics today. As you can see on the bottom of the screen, the new moon that's coming up in the constellation of Capricorn on December 21st, and Jupiter's retrograde, which is occurring, which is already in process, but began on December 8th and goes till April of 2015. So there is actually an order that I'd like to just identify at the beginning of today's show, because December 21st is a very action-packed cosmic day because we have the winter solstice of 2014. We have the Capricorn New Moon, we have the planet Uranus going direct, and we have Saturn a couple days later on the 23rd. We have Saturn shifting into the constellation of Sagittarius, and that's December 23rd. And as I promised on the last show, I would be providing more information on Jupiter's retrograde in Leo, which is a really interesting topic. And because we all have a story, Leo is the story. It is our individual expression. And I'm going to go deep into the energy of Leo and in detail, what it's going to mean to us overall as Jupiter continues on this retrograde backward motion, so to speak. So this year, the new moon in December occurs, as I said before, on December 21st, and it is an action-packed cosmic day. Astrologically, planetarily, there's a lot going on. At exactly 6:02 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the sun moves into 0 degrees Capricorn. And I've got a chart to show you the winter solstice. And there it is. We can see it highlighted in yellow on the bottom right of the screen. The glyph for the sun is the circle with a dot. And you can see it's at 00 Capricorn. And this is an interesting chart, and you're going to see as I show some other charts as well that this winter solstice marks a day where the sun appears to rise and set at the same location on the horizon for 3 days. And we know it as a marker of the shortest day of the year and the beginning of the days beginning to grow longer each day. So, like you can see the background of my show today is the sun rising and setting, and then you're going to see a little period of darkness. We're kind of in that every day is still shorter. But December 21st, it shifts, it changes. And a little bit more light each day will become evident from this day moving forward and toward the spring equinox. On the winter solstice, there is an increase in the Earth's electromagnetic field. We experienced increased cosmic energy, which triggers changes in our DNA, and it accelerates evolution. We are ever moving forward. The word solstice originates from two Latin words that were put together by ancients, and the sol, which means sun, and stis, which means stand still. So solstice, the sun stands still. And it actually appears to do that for about 3 days. So these two words in ancient times were put together to describe the rising of the sun at the same location on the horizon for 3 days. On December 21st, we experience this special cosmic phenomenon along with a new moon occurring shortly thereafter at 9:22 p.m. EST at 0 degrees and 9 minutes in the constellation of Capricorn. So that's our new moon for the month of December, which leads us into this theme, which I'm going to talk about shortly, of unfolding over the course of December and into January. The beginning of January, we have the full moon in Cancer. So as you can see, I'm going to show you a chart of that new moon right now. And that new moon, we can see it on the bottom of the screen. And it is at, excuse me, 0 degrees of Capricorn in 9 minutes, as you can see. And as you can see here, not only do we have the sun and the moon in the constellation of Capricorn, we also can see, if we move up counterclockwise, we can see the planet Mercury, Pluto, and Venus all in that constellation. And what it signifies is Mercury is communication. Pluto is powerful transformations. And Venus is love, relationships, values. And because they're all in this constellation of Capricorn, we see this incredibly intense theme of transition, which is happening structurally for us here on this earth. And this new moon here is significant because it is the 3rd month since the solar eclipse that occurred back on October 23rd. And what this means is that this is the month where we, so to speak, recognize realistically the changing path we've been traveling, and where there's lots of ahas are going to be realized. It's very similar to, if you think back to 2014, to around closer to the end of June going into July. That was an incredibly transformational month as well. It was halfway through from the spring eclipses. So it's like a turning point, I call it. It's time when we turn the corner, we recognize what we must do to overcome those things that have been holding us back. We now see the areas we are responsible for and discover ways to accept these areas. Capricorn energy is a lot about responsibility. We're able to be very resourceful with the knowledge, the tools, and the materials that we have. And with Pluto present on this important cosmic date, December 21st, it shows us the shadowy side of Capricorn. And we may ask ourselves, and this is very important, am I the bully or am I the victim? Am I the domineering person, and do I have to always be the one who wins no matter what? Or do I give away my power and control to others? So these are important questions with Capricorn. Capricorn is a sign that there's a more of a reservation that it carries. It's a business sign. It's the sign that likes to build things, that likes to put its hands on material and use that material for building new resources. So the theme of this new moon will inspire you to identify where you look beyond yourself for recognition and approval. You might ask yourself, what are my goals? And how do I want to achieve them? And then I just want to kind of go back to the day before December 21st, because on Saturday, December 20th, Pluto will be right beside Venus in our solar system. And then on Wednesday, there's that period between the 20th and the 24th, Mercury, the planet of communication, will be right beside Pluto. And it's possible that you can receive powerful insights into how you can change and start on a new path utilizing what you've learned. So kind of take note of those dates, December 20th through December 4th. And later in the evening on Sunday, December 21st, at about 10:32 p.m., the planet Uranus is going to end its long 5.5-month retrograde and begin its forward movement into the constellation of Aries. So this is 3 things all in one day. The winter solstice, days that are, that symbol of days beginning to become longer, the new moon in Capricorn, and Uranus moving direct. And Uranus is that planet that influences crazy, unpredictable effects, and in history has been labeled the planet that influences chaos and unpredictable upsets and blow-ups. In one of my classes this year, astrology classes that I teach at West Running Brook Middle School in Derry, in the evening, one of the students in that class, who's a dear friend of mine, Sarah, said that she felt like this planet, we all in conversation just deem this planet crazy pants because it is the influence of crazy things occurring. So that's our new word to describe that planet. We can expect, though, through this forward movement of Uranus and Aries, big breakthroughs or big breakdowns, reminding us to make every effort to remain balanced, flexible, and grounded in the face of chaos. So those experiences outwardly are a lot more likely. This new moon in Capricorn that occurs on December 21st delivers a feeling that we need to be guarded and careful of how we use our authority. Meaning, if you're in a position of leadership, contemplation is absolutely necessary with this large amount of Capricorn energy present. Ask yourself, am I using the intelligence, authority, and materials that I have to help others along? Help others along? Am I, working alongside them as I teach, or am I using them for my own self-gain? Very important with Capricorn energy. And when we see planets come together as we do on this new moon, such a collection of 5 planets in Capricorn, it does inspire people to come together and to work side by side with a goal in mind. That's the very positive side of Capricorn. And because Saturn is the planet that rules the zodiac sign of Capricorn, and because Saturn is moving into the constellation of Sagittarius on December 23rd, it is symbolic that the time has come for us to embrace understanding and to have faith in something bigger than ourselves and embrace the truth about what we have discovered over the last couple of years. In essence, wisdom comes through each other, and even more so through reaching for the wisdom that comes from outside ourselves. So we have a very power-packed week that leads up to Christmas. December 21st is a Sunday. I talked about the 20th through the 23rd, 24th. So this is the week right before Christmas, and the realization that all we've learned from the last couple years while Saturn was in Scorpio about our fears, our unconscious patterns of behavior, those old hurts, those areas that we remember where pain was felt, and how important it is. We've realized how important it is that we release these things and let go of these shadows from our past. Very, very important. And so Saturn stepping into Sagittarius is going to project us forward with certain limitations, with certain guidelines. On this new moon, though, on December 21st, there is a realization that we have what we've experienced in the past is positively powerful. And it is a base for further development of self-discipline and self-mastery. So on December 21st, as we experience the return of the light, the winter solstice, the new moon in Capricorn, and Uranus turning direct, and just a couple days later, Saturn moving into the constellation of Sagittarius, you'll feel inspired to reflect on what brings positivity, happiness, forward movement into your heart and life, and to remember wherever the light of life lives, there cannot be darkness. it's very interesting as I was thinking about the sun rising and setting at the same place on the horizon for 3 days. The number 3 is a number which is about communication. And I think about the sun as the spirit or the guide or, the reflector of life and the giver of life. Sort of like God is that to us. And it is something that we believe in that's bigger than us. For 3 days, 3 is the number of the Trinity. 3 is the number of a positive answer. And it is the number that, reflects a lot of other things as well. But I just wanted to share that thought. And as in my research, putting together the show for today, I came upon a quote that I thought I'd like to share with you. And I have that picture, a picture. There it is. And what it says is that it doesn't matter how long a room has been dark. For a day, a week, or a year, or even for 10,000 years. The moment you bring in a candle, darkness vanishes like it was never there. Similarly, it doesn't matter for how long we are stuck in a sense of limitations. The moment you decide to break free, nothing will stop you. So I thought that was significant to share for today's show because of that sense of the light being restored. And so people who have planets in degrees which are between 0 and 3 or 27 to 29, if you were to look into your birth chart and find those planets in your chart in those degrees, you're the people that are going to feel the effects of this new moon energy the most in your life. And with that collection of planets that you saw on this new moon in Capricorn, on this cosmically active part of December, there tend to be a sense of strictness, guardedness, maybe cold and fearful side that this Capricorn sign exhibits. Because Capricorn is actually more of a cold sign. And I always tell people or counsel people that have a lot of strong Saturnian energy such as Capricorn to do things to warm up that sign. Work with it and see how you can best use that energy. And so it's important to warm it up. So let's remember, though, the applying energy of Capricorn's ruling planet Saturn. That's also applying, at that part of December. Because as Saturn moves into that constellation of Sagittarius, it's going to have a very inspiring influence. So that'll warm it up. Saturn's energy does inspire work and responsibility, and Sagittarius energy inspires optimism, forward movement, positivity, research into new, untried paradigms, and a belief that there's no limitation of what we can discover. That is what we're going to experience with Saturn moving into Sagittarius. At this time of turning the corner and restoration of light, we've identified, as we look at the past, the last couple years, as Saturn moved through the constellation of Scorpio, we identified and we've seen the dark side, and the indication is now that we can begin to see the light of the future and what's ahead. And very important time in December, this week leading up to Christmas. And the next topic that I'm going to begin to talk about, as I promised on the last show, is Jupiter's retrograde from December 8th, when it began, in the constellation of Leo, and it's going to be going back to April 8th of 2015 is when the end of that retrograde is complete. So from December 8th, which was last week, Jupiter reached about 22 degrees of Leo in that constellation, and it began its retrograde, its backward journey, until April 8th of 2015. And this is the planet that is inspiring us all to tell our story. Leo is the expressive, strong, influential energy that inspires us to really reflect on our story. Jupiter's retrograde is going to inspire that inner reflection. And I have a diagram that I'm going to put on the screen. There it is, Jupiter's stationary retrograde. And it is actually showing the movement. You can see the glyph or the symbol on the left side, about middle of the screen with that arrow in blue, showing that September 12th, that's right around September 12th, when we started to enter into the zone that would be retraced by Jupiter when it turned retrograde, which was last week on the 8th. And it's what we call the before shadow. So experiences felt during that time would be retraced between December 8th and April 8th. So you see, it's kind of like, it is like a three-part journey. And it really is a three-part journey. And it gives us, there's a lot to be said about this time, which is what I'm going to reflect on. But also we need to remember and honor the after shadow, which occurs from April 8th through July 6th, when we completely have gone over the same area, the same experiences 3 times. And it's a really helpful graph to take a look at, to realize what this time period does bring up. And as you saw on that screen, Jupiter does really travel. It appears to travel backwards in time till it reaches that 12 degrees of Leo, which is at that exact place it was on September 12th of this year. So I have a graph that I'm going to show you. And when I teach astrology, I teach my students to think of each planet, and there's certain words that we use which are key toward its description. And the keywords that I use to describe Jupiter are, in the very basic way, are expansion, optimism. Its energy typically brings generosity, spirituality. It's a very beneficial energy which inspires understanding. It inspires people to be merciful. It inspires prosperity, faith, belief. Prosperity is, I guess I put that word twice, but it also is one of the inspirations for good luck when you see Jupiter. It is the great expander. It is the largest planet in our solar system. It does inspire illumination. It expands our consciousness and our spiritual learning. These are all the basic words that describes Jupiter's energy. And some of the very positive words that I would use to describe Jupiter's energy are idealism, philanthropy, faithfulness, radiance, charitableness, poise, devotion. And there are some negative words that we can describe Jupiter when it's poorly or adversely aspected in a chart. And some of the negative words that we can use to describe some of the negative effects of Jupiter are extravagance, being overly confident, being gullible, being pompous, being a bigot, overindulgence, fanaticism, impracticality, exaggeration, overdoing. And so if you would think of all those words, the basic, the positive, and the negative, and at the same time add, this is what we are experiencing as Jupiter moves through the constellation of Leo. And I have some Leonian words that I'd like to put up on the screen that describe Leo. And the very basic words that describes Leo's energy is proud, dignified, lion-hearted. It is a sign that is very proud, very playful, and humorous, expressive, and it is a sign that expresses fearlessness. Leo is often described as the game player, and that they like to have recognition. They're noble. You know, in describing Leo, I often think of somebody who's of royal blood or very poised. They love attention. They love to be special. They love to be recognized. It is an executive sign. Tends to love drama and can be very diplomatic, and loves that, you know, loves children, loves to play. And there's also, they're very bright. And so as you can see on the screen, there's the positive, there's the basic. The positives are big-hearted, loyal. You know, they're strong. And in some of the negative words, as you can see on this screen, that they, you know, they can be arrogant and they can suffer long because of their steadfastness. But when I think about Leo, you know, Jupiter is going to be expanding all these qualities of Leo. And so I'm probably going to have to make next week part 2 of Jupiter in Leo, because we're getting close to the end of the time. But as you saw from the words on the screen, Jupiter is going to influence and inspire us to expand. So think about your story and your personal story. Between this week and next week, I'd ask you to think about what your life story has been. And think about the things that you're proud of. Think about the things that you've been having a hard time to let go of or to change, because Leo typically does not like to change. And as it moves through this constellation, Jupiter moving through it, we're going to be understanding some of those areas with a lot more depth, especially during the retrograde. Think about September 12th through December 8th, some of the experiences that you had with your recognition and the things that you're proud of, that you've created. And think about this time that as we go with the planet retrograde, December 8th through April 8th, that you're going to be going back over a lot of those areas. And it's sort of like we pause this current chapter of our experience and we wander backwards and we revisit experiences from back then, realizing that story and how it unfolded. So with that said, I'm going to find a place of completion here and promise to come back next week with a lot more detail and some significant dates about Jupiter's retrograde. And I want to wish you all a very happy week, and remember to think about what your story is, reflect on it. Perfect timing for that while Jupiter's retrograde. And remember, turn to the stars, you'll find your answers there. Take good care. I'll see you next week.